Hello, hello, and welcome to Self-Care is Sexy. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host. We're a podcast that's here to generate and share self-care ideas with each other. Last episode was all about how to do a self-care reboot. If you're feeling pretty stuck in your self-care routine right now, it's not really working for you, make sure to check out that last episode. I go over ways that you can kill your own status quo and reboot for better results. I want to give you a quick preview of what to expect from today's show. This show, I'm going to talk about what makes self-care seem so hard to implement and what we can do to make it easier on ourselves. We talk a lot on this show about examples of what's getting in the way of making self-care our number one priority. And that's really helpful to understand. But today, I really want to deconstruct what makes it so hard to take time to take care of ourselves and how we can do self-care differently so that it feels easy, doable, and fun so we can be more consistent with it. Today, I got a lot of great wisdom, positive encouragement, and good stuff to get to. But first, a few quick housekeeping notes. All right, my friends. It's time to fill your ear holes with some positive encouragement and ways to really help you get some much needed and valuable self-care in today. And I apologize, I'm obviously dealing with some hoarseness, but hey, you know me and you know my sparkling, spectacular voice will be back next week. If you are new to the podcast, I just want to welcome you and let you know that you have found a show that's going to give it to you straight. I'm not here to sell you a bunch of makeup or facial shit. You found a podcast by a recovering people pleaser, codependent, who has scoured the streets of Portland and the Pacific Northwest and beyond to figure out what real people are doing for self-care and what's getting in their way. I keep it real, I cuss a lot, I tell you where I get my information from, and I let you decide if it's for you or not. Look, folks, the truth is I am not for everyone, and I'm super okay with that. If you don't like my voice, my style, or whatever I'm offering it up, please, for the love of God, move on, and God bless you. Good luck. Because I'm here specifically for the people that want to be here and that are really struggling and need some help and some encouragement and maybe a little fun and wit with learning how to love themselves and take better care of themselves. So, if you're new to self-care or you never really made self-care a priority, it can sometimes feel like a lot of work and it can sometimes seem very difficult. So we find ourselves asking, why is self-care so damn hard to do? Why can't I remember to do it? Why can't I do it consistently? Why is the only time I do, genuine self-care after a horribly toxic breakup and I declare, this is the year of me? What's up with that? How can we do this in a way that isn't so hard? Well, today I've got the top 5 reasons that self-care is hard, and then I'm going to give you my top 5 ways you can make it easier. So let's get started. Why does self-care feel difficult? Why does it feel hard to do? Well, number one, it's hard because you're asking yourself a shitty question. You're asking yourself, why is it hard? And truthfully, it's kind of a low-level question. A better question is what can I do today to make me the priority? What can I do today to help feed myself, my soul? What can I do to take care of myself? And an even better question to ask is what's one thing you've already done for self-care? The reason we got to ask ourselves better questions is because when we ask ourselves a shitty, low-level question like, why is it so hard? We really start to look for evidence. Our brains are pretty fucking stupid, people. And they are going to look for evidence of what you put in front of them. And if you put the question in front of them, why is it so hard? Your brain is going to start looking for why it's so hard. It's the whole you buy a red car and then all you see are red cars. So the better question to ask yourself is, what can I do? What can I do? That switches your brain from why to an action-oriented or a solution-oriented pathway. It starts to get your brain to start looking for solutions. So take a minute right now and think about it. What's something that you could do for self-care today, for yourself? What's something, a little thing, that is not in service to anyone else, that you don't need permission from anyone else but yourself, and it's something that's going to make you feel better? Because asking a better question is going to get your head thinking in a better way. Number 2 of why self-care is hard. It's hard because you're not used to it. You're not used to giving yourself permission. One thing we talk a lot on this show is we talk about permission. Our tagline is permission to put yourself first. And this is a key factor to self-care. And this is the deal. It comes down to permission. For so many of us, other people are in charge. And I don't mean like you've got an authoritarian figure in your life who's telling you what to wear, what to eat, when to get up, when to go to sleep. If that's the case, you gotta make some changes, right? But most of us create that authoritative figure out of thin air. And we create it out of a hodgepodge of the people around us. We start thinking about what our wife wants from us. We start thinking about what our kids expect from us. We start thinking about the role our husband has put us in. And in doing that, we give others, sort of silently give others a lot of permission and a lot of control over our time. It really is about the expectation that we have on ourselves. We say to ourselves, oh, this is the thing that I'm expected to do. And if I don't do it, there are consequences. So it feels difficult to go against that. When you start giving yourself permission to do the sort of seemingly frivolous thing that you want to do that's outside of the expected role that you've been in, it feels like you're going against the authority, against the grain. You're doing something bad. So that's why it feels hard. Number 3, self-care feels hard because it involves some painful work. Like, the truth is, making the right decision sucks sometimes. Walking away from toxic people, setting boundaries, it means you might lose people that you're close to and that you really love. Letting go of the past is extremely hard because you don't know any other way, and it's scary. So self-care feels hard and seems hard because it involves consequences. Now, I don't know when or how we got into this agreement as a society that if I have more, it means you get less. But unfortunately, that is the reality most of us find ourselves in. There's a lack mentality going around that if you've done well for yourself, it means that there's not enough to go around and I now don't get any. It's not pie, people. The things that you want in life, the time that you crave for yourself, the little frivolous things that make you feel good are not going out of stock. There's not a limit on how much of that thing or that time can be created. So when we have convinced ourselves that taking time for ourselves means we're taking time away from someone else, it makes it feel hard. It makes it feel difficult. Number 4, self-care feels hard to do because you have been programmed to not be selfish and to get your self-worth from doing things for other people. This is such a mindfuck. And if there's one thing that I hope to pass along and put out there to the universe and leave as a legacy, if you will, is I want to help other people pleasers, other codependent people, other anxious to please people out there. I want to help them understand that you have been conditioned to not be selfish. And you have unfortunately entangled taking care of yourself and doing what you want to do. You've been taught that that's selfish. And that when you choose to do what you want to do, it means you're not available for the person that's used to getting you to do things. This is so extremely important because when you say, I'm tired, I don't feel good, I need to take a nap, And that means somebody else isn't going to get your time or attention, or you're not going to be a resource for them. There can be consequences to that. There can be backlash. And so it feels really difficult because you don't want to be a selfish bitch. You don't want others to see you like you're not compassionate and caring for the people around you, or that you're not fulfilling your, quote, duties. You've been taught to take care of other people before yourself. And it's building a resentment that if you don't fix, it's going to blow up in your face. I promise. I have been there. Last but not least, number 5, the big one that self-care seems like it's hard to do is because you don't know how to do it yet. And you're probably overwhelmed at how much you've already got going on in life. So adding in self-care, it just seems like another fucking chore that you got to check off the list. It seems hard because you don't know how to put it into your life in an easy way. You don't know how to make it easy for you. And you're probably not recognizing that you do self-care. You do love yourself. You do care for yourself. You're just not celebrating all the times that you do it, so it's not in the forefront of your mind. And I'm here to tell you, and I know this from experience, that the more you do self-care, the more you make it a priority, the more you're able to recognize when you're doing it, and the more you're able to squeeze it into your life. So real quick, I just want to run through that list again. The top 5 reasons that self-care seemed hard is, number 1, you've got to ask yourself better questions. Number 2, you're not used to giving yourself permission. Number 3, it seems hard because self-care involves painful work. Number 4, it seems hard because you've been taught not to be a selfish person. And number 5, self-care seems hard because you don't know how to do it. Okay, so now we get it. We see the light. We see, wow, self-care seems like a big fucking chore and I don't want to add anything to my list. So how do we make it easy? Guess what? I got a list of 5 ways that you can make self-care easy. I just want to point out that this list came from years of experience with trying different self-care tips and tricks that I scoured the interwebs for and talked to people about. So I promise you seems like I just came up with it while I was sitting on a toity, but this is actually the accumulation of years of data looking at what real people are doing for self-care. With that said, the 5 ways to make self-care easy. Number 1, you're gonna start small. Like I said before, you do self-care, you just don't know it, and you're not keeping track of it. So it feels like when you're shitty to yourself, that part of you is winning the war. So you gotta start small. The easiest way to start small is you're gonna start by making a list of 5 ways that you already did self-care today. I could easily come up with 2 ways that you've already gotten some self-care today, and we've never met. Like number 1, you tuned into the podcast. That's an act of self-care. Looking for ways to help yourself is self-care. And number 2, you made it past what makes self-care so hard so that you could gather some skills on how to make it easier. Sometimes small also means working on meeting your own needs. And I have an entire podcast about this, but cut into the Chris notes, you meet your own needs by first identifying them, working to achieve them, and then praising yourself from completing the loop. And if you're stuck in the suck of thinking that if you need something, that there's something wrong with you, well, please check out my show about meeting your own needs. But you gotta start small. You gotta look at the ways you've already taken care of yourself today. It's gonna get your brain focused on looking for the positive things, looking for what's working. Did you feed yourself when you were hungry today? That was meeting a need. That is self-care. Did you pick clothes to wear that were comfortable, that you enjoy, that make you feel good about yourself? That is meeting a need, and it's an act of self-care. Number 2 on my ways that you can make self-care easy. Change your environment. Little things like picking up the trash or the recycling or the clothes on the floor. And don't add anything, just subtract. I'm not asking you to paint your room or, come up with new layout for your furniture. I cannot stress this enough. Anytime I give you a tip, a trick, a hack, an idea on this show, I want you to think 10 times smaller than your brain goes to. Because making something harder than it is just what our brain is naturally good at. So when I say a way to make self-care is easy is changing your environment, I mean literally like get up and go outside. That is changing your environment. Even if it's raining, even if it's shitty, like it doesn't matter. You can really get a quick little hit, a reboot, a reset by just changing your environment, just putting your physical body outside in the fresh air. That is an act of self-care. And even if it's tiny, even if it doesn't feel like it's doing anything for you, I promise you, just standing up is an act of self-care. In a world where we sit and scroll, like that's what we are now, folks. I'm sorry, I hate to be the one, but we sit and we scroll. And just standing up is a radical act of self-care. Half of us have timers and reminders on our watches to make sure we stand up because turns out humans are good at sitting. We are fucking phenomenal at it. So a way to make self-care easy is to just quickly change your environment and recognizing that when you do those little things, that is self-care. Number 3, you're going to cancel something. Anything. Don't give an explanation. Don't apologize. Just do it. And use that extra time that you thought you'd be spending doing that other thing for yourself, for something that you want to do. It's the old adage of playing hooky. And I want you to do this with something that feels uncomfortable. This is super important. I could cancel my dentist appointment because who wants to go to the dentist, right? Yeah, getting your teeth clean is an act of self-care. It is. But it's not a really fun one. And it's not something that is difficult to, reschedule. What I'm talking about when I tell you to do this as a way to make self-care easy is I want you to cancel something that feels like, ooh, I shouldn't cancel that. Now, this is important to distinguish. You're going to have to use your grown-up brain for this part. There is a huge difference between being a flake and canceling something for self-care. I know, it's really hard. It's impossible sometimes for us to understand that two opposing things can be true at the same time. But I'm here to tell you, folks, happens all the time. You can be angry at someone you love. Two things can exist at the same time. You can cancel something and not be a flake. You can be flaky and cancel all the time. Those two things can exist at the same time. But what I really want us to do in this tool is I want us to think about something that we've obligated ourselves to, something that we need to cut out because it's overextending our energy, and we would do well to just say, I'm sorry I overcommitted myself. Now, that apology is for you. It is not for the person you made plans with. That is the radical act of self-care. You're going to take up space with this one, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And I want you to practice this. It's a difficult one. Number 4 in my 5 ways to make self-care easy, stand up for yourself. Now, what's that even mean, right? I say it a lot. Have your own back. And when I say that, what I mean is that you're going to stop going along with something if you don't like it. Stop being pleasant and easygoing no matter what. It's okay to get angry. One of the worst self-betrayals is when you agree with someone else's assessment of you or your situation or whatever, and you don't believe it. And this happens all the time. The self-betrayal piece is the hardest to forgive. And I want to give an example of this because I think this is kind of it's kind of a bigger concept. And so an example might help make this make sense. But let's say you've been dating someone and they have kind of a negative opinion of you about something you do. You chew with your mouth open. It's super annoying. And they've convinced you that you're kind of a slob. And they're really convincing you that the problem is you and that you need to work on you. And you start agreeing with them. So you really start hyper-focusing on everything you chew and whether or not your mouth is open, and you're constantly running yourself ragged to make sure you wake up in a fully painted face and a beautiful manicured outfit every time they see you because you don't want to appear as a slob. And you really break your neck trying to convince this person that you're not what they think you are, that you're not inconsiderate. And then you kind of wake up and look at the situation and you're like, oh shit, I'm not inconsiderate. I'm not a slob. Maybe I did chew corn on the cob with my mouth open, but it's corn on the cob. Okay? You know what I mean? So you're going to stand up for yourself. And when you confront a self-betrayal like that, and you have to really have faith and trust yourself that what you think about yourself and what you know about yourself is the truth, not this other person's opinion. Oh, watch out. Watch out. You stand up for yourself in that type of a situation and you are unfucking stoppable, friend. I promise. Seen it happen. Seen it happen with my own eyes in my own life over years of experience. Number 5, in my ways to make self-care easy, subscribe to this podcast. I mean it. I know a lot of podcasts are really, they're like a front. They're like an infomercial to sell you on people's side hustles. That is not this show. I want you to subscribe because every time a new episode comes out and you see that little pink heart pop up on your podcast feed, it's going to remind you that you need self-care. I'm not selling you anything. I bring you ideas and things and products that I use, but not once are you going to hear me being like, click the link in my bio for more information. Sign up for my coaching. No thanks. I got a day job. I'm a real human. I am not here to sell you anything. I'm not trying to get you to buy my shake or my face cream. And I'm telling you guys, the act of subscribing to this podcast is really saying, okay, every time a new episode comes out, I'm going to listen for ways and I'm going to listen for similarities on how I can make this self-care thing work for me today. And right now, I just gave you 5 very simple ways that you can get self-care in and how it can be profound. And you don't got to buy shit because I don't want you to buy anything from me. Yeah, I've got t-shirts, mugs, stickers, all that fun stuff. You buy that if you want it. But you've not heard me try to hawk that stuff to you because that's not what this is about. This show is about sharing with you what I've learned by talking to all these people. You can go back in the archives and listen to some amazing interviews of people that have this shit figured out. And then I compiled everything and I looked at it objectively to see, okay, what are real people doing to take care of themselves? And then I put it into easy to understand lists. Just for you. All right. And you know me, I got to recap a list. I can't leave you hanging. My 5 ways to make self-care simple. You're going to, number 1, start small. Number 2, you're going to change your environment. Number 3, you're going to cancel something. Number 4 in my 5 ways to make self-care easy is you're going to stand up for yourself. And number 5, last but not leasty, an easy way to do self-care is subscribe to this podcast. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. If you have a story you'd like to share and you want to be on the show, please email me. It's Chris, Kris, at selfcareissexy.com. Okay, we got some really great content coming your way, so stay tuned. And remember that self-care is sexy. We're giving you permission to put yourself first.